Well, this afternoon we have a short debate which will be discussing the case for retaining the Agricultural Wages Board. And it seems to me that we have an option within the Welsh Assembly and with the Welsh Government to actually retain something that is attractive to agriculture in general, both from the farming side, from the recruitment side, and for the general health, I think, and well-being of the agricultural sector within Wales. So it's a matter that ultimately the Welsh Government is going to have to decide upon. We've carried out a detailed research into some of the issues, I think, that affect it, and there's almost 14,000 agricultural workers within Wales that are affected by this. We have here today, perhaps I'll ask everyone to introduce themselves and say who they are and what interests they represent.
Okay, I'm Ivan Monckton. I'm a member of Unite, the Executive Council member for Agriculture and Rural Workers. I'm an ex-farm employee, ex-Forestry Commission employee, now a self-employed contractor in Mid-Wales.
My name is Alun from the FEW's Education and Training Committee, and obviously I'm a farmer, but also the FEW seriously wants to back this. It'll be a step backwards if we lose it.
Andrew Gurney, Land Use Policy Officer with Farmers Union Wales. Exactly the same reasons as Alan's raised already.
And here's also Joyce Watson, Assembly Member.
Assembly Member for Mid and West Wales, and probably covering an area where most of these workers will either work or reside. So the impact in rural Wales is significant, and my interest therefore is obvious.
Okay. The approach that I think that we need to take in this is firstly to put the convincing case to government, and then to seek government support. So I think the actual support from both the, what to some might seem a strange alliance, which is in terms of young farmers, Farmers Union of Wales, and the agricultural section of Unite, but it seems to me there was a very, very common interest. And what has interested me in this, because I mean there are some agricultural workers within my constituency, but my constituency is predominantly an industrial one, is that it's important that the Assembly identifies how and where it can use its powers to perhaps do things that may be different to what might be done in England. We can't influence and affect what will happen within England, and we know that in Westminster, the final steps will be being taken shortly under the Public Bodies Act to wind up the Agricultural Wages Board. So the question for us in Wales, is it worth keeping? What format should it be kept in? And to what extent does it benefit both the agricultural section and I think the people who work within that section themselves, I mean across the board. And certainly from the work I've carried out, I think there is a very, very strong case that we should retain it. And I think that's represented by the common interests across the board.
Oh, may I ask you a question then,
yes.
if that's okay? What interests us now really is what we can do within a time scale before it's abolished in England, and how urgent is the need to do something now really?
Well, my understanding is that in order for it to be abolished in Wales, the consent of the Welsh Government or the Welsh Assembly is required. So whereas the UK government can abolish it in England, it doesn't actually abolish within Wales unless the Welsh Government actually consents to it. So that within our legislative competence, because agriculture is a wholly devolved area, I think that we are in a very, very strong position to say, okay, if that's what you're going to decide for England, then that's a matter for you. But as far as Wales is concerned, we actually intend to go down a different direction, and it's the same direction that Scotland have taken and Northern Ireland have taken. So in some ways, what we may actually end up with is a form of agricultural wages board, however that function is carried out, where the people who have opted out is England.
Yes. How embarrassing is that?
So England is opting out of a system. One other thing that I find surprising about it as well is that under the auspices of deregulating business and industry and so on, the irony is that what we're actually doing is increasing the burden of regulation on business. So there's a strange contradiction there with what's intended by abolition and what actually might be achieved.
Nicely put.
And that's the point that really worries me, because we get lots and lots of representations about the added layers of bureaucracy put on the individual person that's running those businesses. And here you have as you've just said, Mick, a situation where you abolish an existing regulatory framework and body that puts that onus directly back on the individual.
Yes.
And the separation between farmer and worker sometimes isn't quite a correct separation, because the person that owns the farm might be renting that from another person, where the rules and regulations fall, to the same person in the same place at the same time. That's a real issue, and people are more than concerned about this, and the Alliance is wonderful.
Can I ask Ivan, from your side, I mean, the Agricultural Workers section of Unite has a very, very long and historic role in terms of agricultural workers. What are your main concerns about abolition?
Well, same as everybody else's, abolition will undoubtedly lead to a lowering of wages. It will undoubtedly lead to difficulties for farmers and ourselves when we have to try and negotiate on a farm-by-farm basis. I know that's not going to happen everywhere, but the fact is, where we have members, we will be having to negotiate with farmers if the Agricultural Wages Board is abolished. But the thing that really gets me is the idea that the Conservatives appear to have, and to a certain extent the NFU as well, the idea that it'll be okay. The national minimum wage is there. The national minimum wage was set up for people at the very bottom of the work pile, if you like, people that had no protection, people that were on really low pay. And here we have agriculture, a multi-billion-pound industry, and they're saying, oh, it's okay, you've got the national minimum wage. If I was NFU, I would be absolutely ashamed to be taking such a line. And I'm delighted that the Farmers Union of Wales and the Young Farmers Clubs are on board. I'm not surprised, because the Farmers Union of Wales it's not surprising that we do get on. We have lots of similarities. I'm sure many Farmers Union of Wales farmers have to do other jobs as well in the smaller farms, so that they have similar problems to us, and they've supported us throughout the years. On the 3 attempts to abolish the board, the Farmers Union of Wales have been there every time, and I'm absolutely delighted with that. Similarly, maybe the YFC haven't been so prominent in their support in the past, but I'm delighted they can't be here today, but I'm delighted that the Young Farmers Club are going to be supporting us this time. Can I just make one other point there? And this is that, I sort of made a slight attack on the NFU there, but the thing is that it's the NFU as an organisation rather than members of the NFU as farmers. Because I'm a national representative, not just Wales, I live and work in Wales, but because I'm a national representative, I meet farmers throughout the United Kingdom, and I have yet to meet a farmer that is in favour of the abolition of the board. And the problem is that the NFU have been hijacked by their horticulturalists. It's the horticulturalists, and this is all about what used to be called the casual worker rate and is now called grade 1. And although it's only 2 pence above the national minimum wage, it's all of the extra things that the board brings, which is detailed in this paper. And it's the horticulturists that are determined that they are going to sweep the board away. And they're holding the NFU to ransom. They're huge farmers with large workforces, large holdings, and they pay lots of money in subscriptions, and they've got the NFU by the short and curlies, and the NFU have given in. And I think that's a great pity, because last time round the NFU were amongst our biggest supporters for keeping the board.
Can I ask you then, following on from that, is the real difference between the alliance that we see here simply based on the types of farming, the very large land holder, if you like, because of what you just said, horticultural farming is very different to the types of membership that you will have, which is a small farm that's very often rented, quite frankly, sometimes owned. And do you think that that is the difference in the opinion and also the representation that's happened, which mainly, of course, resides, therefore, in England?
Do you want me to answer? I mean, that is exactly what I think is the situation. As I said, most what we think of as ordinary farmers, livestock, arable farmers, whatever, mixed farmers, most of those farmers employ small numbers of people. Vast majority, of course, don't employ anybody on a full or part-time basis, but the